lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge Podcast, guys. I am your host, the almighty Dillbot, and with me, as always, is the unstoppable Ryan. Oh, bro! So I had to tell you, this is really funny. All right, you know how that on my story, I posted that meme where it says, "Normalize telling your homie that he can't rap." Fucking Kevin, Kevin B-Days, he literally messaged, "Oh, is Ryan trying to start his rap career again?" And I didn't reply to him because I was at work, and freaking I wanted to reply to him your new rap name. I came up with a rap name for you, bro. Are you ready?
What is it?
Bars Balcom.
Oh, that's dope.
Bars.
I like that. Yeah. Okay.
Bars Balcom.
That's
is
good.
that I'm gonna call you the unstoppable Bars Balcom from now on.
Okay. I'm ready for that. Yeah. Okay. You should listen.
Anyway.
Oh, by the way, you should also real quick. Let me just anybody listening, also to you. I guested on the Comic Marauders last week to talk about the new Brubaker book.
Nice.
So, kind of shared some love,
haven't read the new Brubaker book.
No, it's fine. Whatever.
Anyway.
Let's do this, man.
All right, let's friggin' do it. This week we read Heroes Reborn, Hey Kids Comics Volume 2, Star Wars, War of the Bounty Hunters. Oh, The Good Asian.
Favorite book this week.
Yeah, favorite book this week. It really was. I mean, we'll save that for last. But let's talk about something that caught me by surprise. It wasn't great, but it caught me by surprise. And it was Heroes Reborn.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Let's talk about Heroes
Reborn. It's exactly how I felt.
Exactly
what you just said.
It wasn't great. Like, I'll give my rating for it right now. Like, it was like a 7, hard 8, but like right around that range of 7, 8. It wasn't like the 90s Heroes Reborn now, right? It was nothing like the 90s Heroes Reborn, which I like, which is great. This is better. And I you hear about the premises, like, at the shop we get to read like freaking all the synopses ahead of time. And this is like one of the ones where I read the premise because I didn't want to go into it like thinking it was the 90s one, so I wanted to have a good idea of what was going on. With that knowledge, I still went into it not expecting much, not having any expectations whatsoever, and I read it and I enjoyed it. The world without Avengers, right? And
it's Age of Apocalypse with Avengers. It's Age of Apocalypse with Avengers.
Yes.
Except Blade is Bishop in this instance.
Yes.
Bishop was the only one that remembered Age of Apocalypse, and I stole that from Nick, by the way. I mean, he told me, and I'm like, oh, you're right. So I don't want to take credit for like analyzing it in that way because he's way more of an X-Men mark from that era than I was. Like X-Men, I was not reading back then. I read Age of Apocalypse later, but he's right. It definitely is. It was. I haven't read all of Jason Aaron's Avengers. I think I read the first 17 issues. I want to say first 17 issues.
I went all the way to the War of the Realms, and then after War of the Realms, I stopped.
That's okay. That's where I read. So, was that 17?
Yeah. Was that? I want to say. I want to say it was in the teens. But...
Okay. So I read that. And then I read the Starbrand arc that was more recent. I read I guess I read the last 3 arcs. So I read the last 3 arcs also, and mixed feelings about them. It's not my favorite Jason Aaron work, but it's enjoyable. It's fun. You know what I mean? Like I think that it's not really going for anything like it's not his Thor. Is what I'll say. But it's fun. And but what I liked about this, first off, let me just say, though, the cover design, I'm not about that. I think it was a poor choice. I don't know who chose to design this cover. I think it's not marketed well. Because let me tell you something, dude. I don't know how everybody stores their books, but you know how there's some shops where they sit in a shelf?
Yeah.
What book is this? I have no fucking clue when I look at the cover if it's in one of those shelves. So I don't like the branding of it. I have an issue with.
I hated the cover too, but then I saw the Series 3 or Series 4 Marvel homage to the friggin' the 90s collectible cards. the one where you collect 9 and this week is Mephisto, so he was like dead center of the whole picture.
Yeah.
But like the cards that this comes with, it makes a whole picture like the 90s cards that I fell in love with. And those are it's the dopest thing I ever seen.
Okay,
like,
that
too bad it was,
I agree.
Too bad it was wasted on Heroes Reborn. Now, going so far as to say that, it's like Heroes Reborn was not the 90s Heroes Reborn, and all signs pointed to it being like that, but it's not. It was really good.
I honestly don't even think it was. They weren't like marketing it as like, oh, it's the anniversary of Heroes Reborn, because that would have been 96.
Oh,
right. So that would have been 2026 that we would have seen the 30th anniversary for that. They just did it in title, and even Aaron said that like it wasn't meant to homage that storyline or be that, you know what I mean? Because that's not even what that story was about. And he doesn't say it's Age of Apocalypse either, but like he's kind of been building up Squadron Supreme in his run. I think we saw that. If you read up to War of the Realms, that's when they were prominent, right? Like Agent Coulson I'm pretty sure he died in Deadpool, and then he's somehow brought back in this run, and he's kind of a scumbag. He's a douchebag, all around piece of shit. I mean, I think that's kind of that's what I got from this, and that's what I got from what I've read from him in Avengers. But I do like. I mean, I like these like what if type stories. Like, oh well, what if this didn't happen? You know what I mean? Like, I'm a huge mark for that. Yeah. So and after talking to him myself, I'm like, dude, like this sounds dope. I want to check this out. I'll put it on my poll and I'll see what's up. And if it's good, I'll buy the rest, or if it's good, I'll buy the trade. We'll see. Like I still haven't fully decided how I want to get the series, and I love Blade. I love the character. Squadron Supreme, I'm neither here nor there. I've read the original by Mark Grunwald from back in I think he wrote in the 80s, so I've read that.
Squadron Supreme.
I mean, they're basically the Justice League in the Marvel Universe, like I like their iteration from Supreme, or was it Supreme? No. The one that J. Michael Straczynski wrote for the Max Comics line. But yeah, so like I think that's why like I wasn't like initially like, oh, I want to read this, because I don't really care about the Squadron Supreme. But I'll check this out, because I kind of want to see the different iterations of these characters thrust into this new world and how that happened. So I like that it's Blade's perspective. That's one of the things I like about Jason Aaron's Avengers. He fucking put Blade on the team. Yep. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, if you would have told me at any point in my life that Blade was going to be an Avenger, I would have told you you're fucking high. You're fucking crazy. my you know what I mean? Like, why would Blade be a fucking Avenger? Why does he care?
Doesn't care enough.
Yeah.
But apparently he does.
Why is Wesley Snipes an Avenger? That's my mind. That's how I knew Blade. Funny story is my grandma took me to see Blade not knowing what it was. That was my experience with Blade. We got about halfway through and she took me out. She's like, we're not watching this. I think it was the scene with the blood, where it's like coming in the, so it's probably early in the movie, and she's like,
no. It was the first scene of the movie.
Okay, I can't remember, like, but I think she took me out very early in the movie. She's like, we're not watching this. I was like, damn, like I was into it.
This started off so cool.
So the minute that it came on DVD, I watched it, and that was my intro to Blade. I didn't know he was a comic book character when I first saw it, and I've liked Blade ever since, So
I didn't know when I saw Blade, the first Blade, I didn't know he was a comic book character either. And then they were like, yeah, Blade the Vampire Hunter, Marvel Comics. What? Yeah. I mean, I knew about Moon Knight. I knew about like all these like off-brand supernatural like superheroes, like Ghost Rider. obviously. Ghost Rider was Danny Ketch was very prominent in the 90s. But like as far as Blade the Vampire Hunter goes, like no, like who is this black ninja with the dopest tribal tattoo ever? Like the only dope tribal tattoo ever belongs to Blade, by the way. And it was mind-blowing. It was great. It was like one of the best comic book movies I've seen. And then like, after that we got Punisher with John Travolta.
I don't mind that movie, I've seen
honestly
worse.
I mean Punisher Warzone is the greatest Punisher movie ever made. But as far as Blade goes, like he was definitely in that list of obscure characters but like after you heard about him, everybody knew about him. Like everybody knew, everyone loved how dope the Blade movies were, right? Like 1, 2, Trinity, people went to go see, but nobody liked it. But you know what I mean? Like he became like a literal. He was a staple in pop culture, which was crazy. And then to have him the center of this story, fantastic.
Yeah.
To get the attention he finally deserves, because has he had his own series since that?
Yeah.
I feel like
he's had a few series.
Really?
I mean, we're actually going to be talking about a creator on, another book we're talking about this week. He did a Blade series, Howard Chaykin.
Oh, really?
And there's been other ones. There was a Max series. There's been a few Blade books. They just, they don't last for whatever reason. Yeah. There's a lot of characters that like have the fan base, but it's like not enough for them to continue to publish the book more frequently. So that's why I'm glad Blade's getting the shine. Like I said, Squadron Supreme, like they are the world's greatest superheroes, right? In this universe. Agent Coulson is president. I didn't read the credits, by the way. Jason Aaron, obviously, writing. Ed McGuinness, art.
Yeah.
Mark Morales, inking. And the great Matthew Wilson is coloring. So the art I liked the art. You know what I mean? Like,
it's Ed McGuinness, so it felt like the heyday of the 90s.
Yeah, so there's somebody that said something about the first couple pages, said it was cringy. I'm not going to say who it was. But, like, Doom getting the Gem of Cyttorak. I've seen worse. Did I think it was awesome? Not really. Did I hate it? No, I was neither here nor there. It's just another one of Doom's kooky plans.
It's
but just like, meant really to be. Can't be I think this book is just meant to be a fun fucking superhero romp. You know what I mean? And like, whatever. Like I think that it, like you said. I mean, I'm like around 7.5 to an 8. Because I didn't really have the highest of expectations for the book, so like I wasn't disappointed. Yeah. You know what I mean? I didn't come in and get disappointed by anything. I think that in like going forward, we're gonna see a lot of dope artists drawing the main story of the book. So I mean, I'm here for it. I liked it. You know what I mean? Like I don't really have much else to say because like it's just Blade going trying to find. Looks for Captain Marvel. He looks for She-Hulk. He looks for Cap. That was dope. You know what I mean?
I like the little alternate universes, friggin' Captain Marvel never becomes a captain. Jennifer Walters is a successful lawyer in Los Angeles, not a hint of green. Like I like these little, like Blade says it too. He's like, this world is actually a little better. Like this is weird, but thing. Yeah. But and the source of all of it, what Blade has found is that the fact that nobody found Captain America. That's kind of like the catalyst. And, I love that. I love Cap. Like, Captain America has definitely grown on me over the years. The writers, Ta-Nehisi Coates did a great job. Brew Baker's done a good job. Like, all these different Cap characters, like, all Cap in general, I've really come to cling on to Cap lately. And the fact that he's the center point for this whole mystery, I love it. Blade and Captain America team up, I'm with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, like, I'm kind of down to touch on each issue. Like, maybe not, like, give it a complete, like, spotlight like we're doing right now, where we spend too much time on it, but maybe just kind of, like, jump in, touch on it, like, talk about it. I think it's every week, so if you're up for it, I'm down to kind of, like, continue and just share some brief thoughts on each issue. Kind of like we usually pick an issue to like, oh, let's talk about the issue 3 of this book. And
it feels like a giant what if series.
Yeah, I mean, but it's going to have lasting effects, apparently.
Should we talk about the next one?
Yeah. So
let's talk about Hey Kids Comics, Volume 2.
Okay.
If you want to go ahead and read the credits.
I mean, Howard Chaykin.
I don't have it on hand.
That's the credits. Howard Chaykin.
There you go.
Okay. He does it all, man. So.
Okay, this caught me by surprise because I didn't read volume like the issue before this. I didn't read anything before this. I had no clue what I was getting into, and then boom, I start reading it, and then it's like immediately I'm like, wait, this is like secondhand about the comics industry. I just didn't know who was who. I'm still trying to figure that out. Even if
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a little confusing because even the logos that he chooses for
are
the
ambiguous.
analogs, like you can kind of see where DC is. I
Yeah,
kind of can guess.
same.
Volume one is like the birth of the industry,
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I definitely think like maybe we'll fit that into the schedule. We'll talk about that because I don't know that many people have read it. I mean, you
Yeah.
obviously didn't even. I don't think you even knew that book ever existed because it wasn't
No,
marketed very well.
it
Um,
is great.
it's really cool. I
And
mean, it is a really dope look into the industry.
what I love about it is okay, so it's multiple publishers, right? And they each have their own little thing going on, and they're all the story is told kind of simultaneously. So like on multiple pages, you'll get like three different reactions to pretty much the same thing, and it's all like these different publishers. That's like one of the things that I loved about it the most is just like, yo, this would be a really good movie. like
Yeah.
like you know what I mean, movie about comics, and like about like how seemingly like cutthroat it was back then. Like, there's just all a bunch of dudes, all a bunch of white men freaking over here freaking battling for the money of little kids, and like what they're trying to do to go about it, and like the government and senators and freaking people over, and like doctors saying like comics are like freaking infesting children's minds, and like that whole era, and like pre-comics code, and then boom, approved by the Comics Code Authority. Like,
Yeah.
this is such a dope book. I would love to see this as a movie.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it, dude, because like
This is good.
Howard
It is
Chaykin
really good.
is a favorite of mine, and
Yeah.
I came to his work, later. I'm sure one of the things I've read from him was probably something that he did at Marvel or DC, which was very rare. Anyways, like I told you, he did like a Blade series, um, but
Yeah.
he really came to prominence with his American Flag book in the
Mm.
80s. Like that is one of the most critically acclaimed and celebrated books, and like it really kind of changed comic books. It was very influential to a lot of artists that were coming up around that time. I think it's like right up there with like Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns in terms of like influence on the industry. It just doesn't get as much. That's not the right word. It doesn't get as much shine as those books.
Mm.
Mostly probably because it wasn't published by Marvel or DC. It was published by First Comics. A small publisher. But I can't think of anybody better to kind of give us this like hard-nosed look into the industry. He doesn't pull punches. None of his work ever pulls punches.
No.
It's he does a lot of satire stuff and like looks at like just the world in general with some of his stuff.
Yeah.
And having talked to him, like having watched interviews with him, I mean, he's just such a fucking cool person, and I just love his outlook. He's done other stuff where like people have thrown kind of like he's gotten some pushback on stuff. But this series, I think across the board, people in the industry like really like respect, right? And the first volume, maybe it didn't get as noticed as it should have, but I don't know as much about that era of the birth of comics, but this era is where I start to know a little bit more. Like book Frederick Wortham wrote, Seduction of the Innocent, and how that led to like the congressional fucking thing with them like this madness in comic books, mainly focused at EC Comics, who takes a huge fucking spotlight in this book. I forgot, like I said, I don't remember which publisher because he does create his own publishers as analogs for those. But
Yeah.
EC with their fucking horror books and their Tales from the Crypt and all these books that they,
Yeah.
people getting their heads fucking cut off.
Yeah.
So that led to like people burning comic books, like dude, fucking censorship,
Yeah.
all that shit really bastardized almost the comic book industry and held it back from growing into what it could have been. Imagine where comics could have been now if the Comics Code Authority never existed. The Comics Code
Right.
Authority like finally died off in the 2000s, and even there was still comic books that would come out that would not have the stamp on it. Like there's
Yeah.
a certain Swamp Thing issue that issue 34 of Saga of the Swamp Thing where they didn't have the Comics Code Authority on. There's other instances, but this look into this era of comic books and told from Howard Chaykin's mouth, I fucking love it. because he doesn't like, he's very vocal about how the Comics Code Authority really kind of ruined the industry for a long time. And I think I even talked about it with him in my interview. Like, there's I think Stephen Bissett, when I talked to him, told me that, yeah, they got rid of all these like files, right, when they went down. So like, what was there? Like, what comic books didn't they allow the world to see? We'll never know, because they just threw it all out. Like, that's just crazy to me. And
yeah, it's
I really love this book. I really think
with censorship, like, I feel like comes a lot. It restricts the movement of free ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, if people weren't worried about like some kind of like made up group of people to just come and say like, hey, you can't do that because we find that inappropriate, then like some people would never get to express themselves and their art and their craft fully. And that shit sucks, dude. You imagine like, oh, hey, comics are terrible, but you guys are doing a podcast and you guys can't do it anymore. Fuck you guys. Or, Dylan, you can't draw this. Like, what? What do you mean you can't? I'm gonna draw it right now. No, you can't. You know what I mean? And be blackballed by the entire freaking country.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like bonfires for comic books. If you ever wonder why comics from the 50s are ever worth that much, this is why.
Yeah, because they're just burned, dude. People would throw them out.
People were burning them,
throwing them in the trash. Like, so I think this is just a really cool book. Anybody that is a fan of comic books or the history of comic books, like, check this book out. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's only a couple subs at the shop to it. Like, I subbed to it immediately, so I was the only sub for a while. And then we have, actually, he's a comic book creator himself. He's been in the industry in animation for a long time. He shops there, and he got 2 copies. So I think that this book definitely needs some more eyes on it, and hopefully us talking about it will kind of get people to check it out, check out the first volume as well. And maybe when we talk about the first volume too, that'll kind of help also, kind of get eyes on this book, because it's dope.
Speaking of Comics Authority, it's kind of funny when like I see people at cons and they're wearing like a Comics Authority shirt, and I'm like, that shirt's trash. Like, the shirt was censoring people, and you're wearing it to a Comic-Con. That's an affront, sir. Sir. I'm like, what are you doing? Anyway,
they should they should also be walking around.
Authority.
They should have a fucking sign that says, "Please slap me." You know what I mean? Why the fuck are you wearing a Comics Code Authority shirt? I would never fucking wear that at all. I would put not approved by the Comics Code Authority.
Yeah. Now let's talk about
War of the Bounty Hunters. Okay, Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters. So we got Charles Soule on writing the book, Steve McNiven drawing, and Laura Martin coloring the book. What'd you think, dude? Because I know you're not really reading the Star Wars books.
I'm not really reading the Star Wars books, but that doesn't mean I freaking don't love it. And let me tell you, I love the in-between stories. Rogue One, quite possibly, is one of my favorite movies of all time. Rogue One was so good. And it was an in-between story. It was between episode 3 and episode 4. This is an in-between story. This is in between when Boba Fett was walking onto Slave One with friggin' Han Solo and Carbonite to take him to Jabba the Hutt. But everything in between that, I didn't know there was an in-between that. And the fact that that's happening, that's how this is happening, is the dopest shit ever.
Well, that's actually been going on in the current Star Wars ongoing and the current Darth Vader. Both of those ongoing series that are happening right now, which are both at, I think, issue 11, are taking place in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which is like my favorite. Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Empire is dope. Empire is dope.
It's so good. So like it's
so good.
Yeah, so this era, it's like, so they've been kind of like building up, and like the only problem I have is I just found out this is gonna be like a 34 fucking part crossover. That's too much. I was originally signed up
for
War
of the Bounty Hunters?
Yeah, because it's going to touch on each ongoing series that happens, because they have Star Wars, they have Darth Vader, they have Star Wars Bounty Hunters, they have Dr. Aphra. And
is all this stuff going on pre-return?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I've been meaning to read Dr. Aphra. I've been meaning to read the new Darth Vader, and yeah, So
yeah, I mean they're good. They're definitely really good. I'll probably just continue with the miniseries and Star Wars and Darth Vader because I was already reading those, so I don't mind picking those up. But I'm not going to pick up. That's a lot. That's a lot of comics. But we're just here to talk about this one book. Which, by the way, I like it. I like that Boba Fett's getting some shine because like everyone's like, dude, the Mandalorian is so popular. How come they don't have a comic book about Mandalorian? Obviously they could do it, but I guess it would be kind of confusing maybe to some people because of like the whole Star Wars line right now, with the exception of High Republic, is all set between Empire and Return. Although I think they should still do a Mandalorian comic book, but that's besides the point. So to see Boba Fett get some shine, I'm down. And the art, for me, was the best part of this book. I love Steve McNiven. I liked him since I first saw him when he was drawing at CrossGen Comics. A lot of people listening and watching probably don't even know what the fuck CrossGen Comics is. It was a fucking company that was around for like, I think, 3, maybe 4 years. I liked a lot of their content. I have a lot of the books still. But Steve McNiven got his start there. And Marvel fucking snatched him up once CrossGen went under. And his style has changed. I mean, he drew Civil War, which is one of the best Marvel events, I think, of all time. And his style has kind of gotten a little bit looser, I would say. And I've seen other people agree, like some Barry Windsor-Smith a little bit, kind of, mixed in here in his style. The whole point of this story is like, he's got Han Solo and he needs to give him to Jabba. That's basically the whole gist of this story. And having Han Solo, like, he's about to die because, like, you're not supposed to fucking put people in carbonite. Like, that's not done. You know what I mean? Like, it's supposed
like
to
not
do
a thing.
Yeah. So, like, he's got to keep him alive because Jabba wants him alive. He doesn't want him dead. So he goes to, like, this dude who he's the same race as the guy that Obi-Wan goes to in, I think, Revenge of the Sith. He works at a diner. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah.
Or no, it's in it's in Attack of the Clones. Because he brings him that dart from Camino, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same race. I mean, not that it matters, but I always like seeing those callbacks to the ones we don't really see before. That in of itself is really cool, but where it goes is really dope, I think.
It's a space western, like all things that involve Mandalorians. It's a space western, space gladiator western, and I love that he just comes. He's literally wearing his same costume, and he just comes in all black, and he's like, "Call me Django." It definitely has all the elements of like a good classic Star Wars tale has to it. Like, nothing too overcomplicated. Like, this is a fun first issue. This is a fun way to start it off. Pretty violent. I mean, I don't know how violent freaking Star Wars comics have been, but this is a pretty violent issue. And we finally get to see the full badassery of Boba Fett. Like, like there's not there isn't enough Boba Fett, I feel like. And he's one of the most underutilized characters in the Star Wars universe, and I'm glad that, this is him.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because like he was really just a background character that people just fucking loved, right? Like he started, like they released that mysterious action figure back in the 70s, I think, and that's kind of where it started. And he was in the background in, I think it was in Empire when Darth Vader was sending people to go, was it looking for Luke or something? I can't remember exactly the scene. It's escaping me because it was just a very brief moment, but you see him, and then he's in the background again. I mean, he takes Han Solo at the end of Empire, then he's in Return, but then he gets killed like really quick. So he's not really ever done anything. Nobody ever does anything.
He's really done nothing.
But everybody loved him.
Yeah. He was like, oh man, that guy's helmet is awesome.
Yeah, he had a dope design. And then like, obviously Dark Horse, when they had the license, a lot of comic books, they showcased Boba Fett. And then obviously Mandalorian has reinvigorated everybody with, having Boba Fett. You did have Jango, which is his dad, but really Boba Fett is cloned from him in the prequel trilogy. But like now to kind of it's obvious that they're doing this because of the popularity of Mandalorian. But I don't
Yeah.
mind it. I'm down because like I would love to see more Boba Fett stories set in this era before we get to him in Mandalorian. So
But
yeah,
the funny thing about this is it kind of makes it all the more tragic. Like, you know, I mean, pre-Mandalorian, when like, all these cool stories about Boba Fett, like, just made his appearance in the movies even more tragic. It's just like, it's like after all this, you just fly into the mouth of a friggin' thing, of a friggin'
I mean, but he
sandworm.
doesn't. But he doesn't die though. So
Yeah,
like
exactly.
knowing that he
Exactly.
lives, it's
Knowing
not
that
as
now,
tragic.
yeah.
It
Knowing
was
that now that
tragic
he
before
somehow
though.
survived,
Yeah.
that he survived, and like what he's done in between, like, you know what I mean, like that makes him even more of a badass now. So I feel like, you know, not only did freaking John Favreau save freaking, you know,
Star Wars.
Star Wars,
Yeah.
freaking he saved Boba Fett single handedly.
Yeah. So like I'm
I want to know
excited
how
to.
he got out.
Yeah, that's the story I want to read. So I'm hoping that like once they get to that era of like after Return of the Jedi, I hope that they continue to do stuff like because there's a story to be told between Return of the Jedi and where the newer trilogy started. And
Yeah.
that's one of the stories that I really want to see. I want to see how he got out and what he did in the in between. I think a lot of Star Wars fans would like to see it. I think there's so much opportunity there. You know what I mean to see where it goes forward. This story though, I mean, not a tremendous amount of stuff happens. It's really just like the prequel to the main story. But you know, at the end, he loses Han Solo, and now he's got to get him back. He's because he already promised him to Jabba. So like, you know, he doesn't want to fucking have a bounty on his head, right?
Right.
So I'm excited to see where it goes forward. I think that the writing, pretty solid. I'd give it an 8. You know what I mean? Maybe 8.5
Yeah. Eight point
because the
five.
art was really, really good. I really love the art. So,
The arena scene with the spider lady.
that shit was dope.
That shit was crazy. It was a good. It was and like that whole scene, that whole fight scene was a good at least 6 pages worth of fight. And we're not
Mm-hmm.
talking about like big ass splash pages. We're talking about like 6 to 9 panels per friggin' per page, and it's awesome. It's so much fun. This is a
Yeah,
fun one, and I hope it continues like this. I think this is gonna like reinvigorate my love for Star Wars comics, and yeah, I want to read more. Probably gonna start reading Darth Vader now. Probably gonna
you
start
should.
reading those. Yeah, dude, no, it's gonna be
You
good.
should. The Darth Vader series is phenomenal. That's my favorite of the two. Yeah, so I think everybody, you Star Wars fan, you got to read this book. If you haven't been reading the Star Wars comics, like I just told Dylan, I mean, like go check them out. They're really good. You can even go back to the Jason Aaron stuff. That shit was really dope. Let's talk Good Asian, our favorite book of the week. So Portek Pisha Show wrote the book. Alexandre Tefenki is the artist. Lee Lar is colorist. Jeff Powell, letterer and designer. And yeah, this book, another solid entry into the crime noir genre. I love this book. As of the day we're recording this, the interview with Hornsack is going up. So
Nice.
I hope that everybody checks this book out. It was so cool. You know, definitely had Vertigo vibes, like I told him when I was talking to him, because he was a former editor at Vertigo, and
Oh,
the and the art, everything, dude. I just fucking I was I don't want to say I was shocked at how much I liked it, but not everybody can do the noir genre to my liking. It's like I have very high standards thanks to Brubaker and Phillips, but this book knocked it out of the park. Set in San Francisco in the 30s, Chinatown, so it's also dealing with xenophobia and racism and stuff like that. So like you mix that all in, and it just really makes a dope setting with a really awesome story. The main guy, Edison Hark, I love the name too. Just really, really good book. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts on it because like I was excited to kind of.
I said it to you earlier before. Image is really really handling with Asian led and Asian just Asian stories,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been awesome. It's been phenomenal. Good Asian is a testament to that. I didn't think I was gonna like this book this much. All the feels of a good noir story, but from especially like an early 1900s noir story where it's really well told, but like from a perspective that we don't get to see that often. You know what I mean? A perspective that was often ostracized during the times that these stories took place in. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there you get even like a little bit of a history lesson too. Like, you know, from 1882 to 1924. Like, we're talking about 42 years, 42 years of like just complete race banning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about this and how it affects, you know, affected the generation that came after, and it's crazy because there's a lot of stuff here that they touch on. They touch on how in Asian families, you know, family is very important, and you always keep your mouth shut, and you always try to handle your business by yourself. Like, there's this whole like underground, like, no, not underground, but this whole just like cultural nuances that he's capturing in this. That's just so good, dude. And it's, you know, his character Edison Hart understands that, and like that's kind of like brings a new perspective and a new life to this noir genre, because, you know, it's not just another white detective going through all these shady parts of town being the white detective. No, now it's an Asian detective, an Asian, you know, an Asian character going through these things, but as an Asian character, and how differently he gets treated, but not just by those who aren't his race, but like by his own people as well. It's so crazy, dude. This is freaking fantastic shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool because, like, so you have this like this racism going on, right? And he even gets taken to a detention center until they realize, like, oh shit, like who he is, and they have to let him out. And then as he's like investigating this case, like I don't want to get too much into like the details of like what he's doing, because I knew nothing other than like the setting and the genre of the book. I didn't want to know much. I wanted to just dive in, and that's why I don't think I told you very much either when I said I wanted to talk about it. But, you know, he's a detective, and there's like, as he's like going around, right? Like, we're seeing other cops and how racist they're being towards like the old lady, the shop owner, right? Like, so he's dealing with the racism, like even from people in his field, in his line of work. So that's also an interesting aspect of the book. Like, he's got like this well, not prominence, that's not the right word, but like he's a cop. You know what I mean? Like, so how do you separate that, and how are you dealing with that also as you're as you're detecting, as you're on these cases? I think it's going to be a different case each issue. I could be wrong, but you know, watching him go through, and like I love the panel structure, and I love when he's like, as he's like working things out in his head, and he sees like it'll pinpoint like the evidence that he's kind of seeing. I thought that was really interesting and cool. And, you know, Hornsack, he did such a great job of capturing the tone and the mood of this era of like that we don't necessarily always see. Like, I love period pieces. I love stuff. I mean, like, you're taking technology completely out of the picture, putting it in 1936. So there's not, you know, it's just old school detective. And I love that, and I want to see. I wish there was more stuff in this genre out, but this is a great addition, and I think he knocked it out of the park. He gives us all the players. We learn who everybody is. You get a real good feel for who Edison Hark is, and it still trips me out that he had this book written before there was all this shit going on in the world.
Yeah.
And for it to come out now, it's like, I mean, I keep saying this, like, it's timely, but at the same time, like, there's always going to be racism, so you could always say that any book that touches on this stuff is timely, right? But I do think that it's interesting that it's coming out now. I just really love the book. I'm trying not to. I don't want to talk too much about like the intricacies of the book, because I want people to be surprised when they get it. But I mean, just art phenomenal. What's it called? Nick said he kind of got Wes Craig vibes.
Yeah,
off of it. I
because,
guess I could see that, but
the mooding, the mood, the color tone and mood, like you know, in the parties, like it's like, you know, a nice warm color, and then on the shady parts where it's like, you know, when they see this some of the internment camps that they made, it's all blue and gray and purples, like, you know what I mean? Like there's and you know, Wes Craig does that. He did that all throughout Deadly Class. He's been doing that. You know what I mean? Wes Craig and Remender. But yeah, like, dude, I love this. This is a beautiful look at it. It's a beautiful look at a time that shit was fucking fucked up for everybody. I mean, shit's always fucked up for somebody. And this just so happened to be like for Chinese and Chinese Americans. Like there's there's even a flashback. Like, oh man, I wish I could talk about it. There's a flashback where you see like the family that he lived with and like the daughter talking to her, where he kind of calls her trash. Where the daughter, blonde hair, blue eyed girl, calls the little Asian adopted kid friggin', "Oh, you're trash that my father brought home."
Yeah, I know. It's fucking.
Like, that's fucked up, dude.
It is. It's fucked up, and it's interesting that like he gets adopted, but so he's had kind of a different upbringing than some other people that are living in America, right? And like because of that, like that's how he gained his prominence as a detective and the respect that he's earned. But at the same time, like he still gets shade thrown at him, and there's a couple scenes in there too that are just like, man, dude, like they pull on you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's another, you know, dark spot on America was like these camps, like you're fucking. We're saying what they're doing to the Jews is like wrong, but I mean, you guys are kind of doing similar stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how much he leans into it moving forward. I think it'll always be an aspect of the book, maybe not a focus.
I feel like it because with racism, like for prior to everything that's been going on, like sometimes, like, you know, there's a point in time where I feel like in every kid of color's life, like where like someone's being racist and you just gotta fucking bite the bullet. I feel like those moments in here are very well captured because like he's just like, you know, when things happening to when the old Asian lady's getting interrogated by the cop and the cop is like being a fucking dick, like all he has to do is just bite the bullet, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a lot of that going on prior to the recent years, you know what I mean? A lot of bite the bullet racism, where it's just like, just gotta push on, don't fucking act, just do better. When all that stuff happens to Edison, I really feel that. I really definitely feel that kind of like vibe from it, that he's just biting the bullet, and one day he's gonna fucking snap. Such a well-written book. It's such
everything.
A well-written book, dude.
The art, the coloring, the lettering, every aspect of this book. I don't want to say. I don't want to throw out a 10. I don't want to say a 10 because I don't want people to think that like I give out 10s easily. But I just didn't find anything wrong with this book. I thought it was a great book, and if I was at the counter more, I would have been able to recommend it more. But I was like, we were so busy yesterday with like online shit that I couldn't talk to people about it. But I think the response so far has been well. We've sold a lot of signature series pre-order sets of the book. I already am hoping there's going to be another series because this seems like it could be like in the vein of Another Criminal, where we continue to see stories set in this world. You know what I mean? Set with this character. And he said he does have ideas for more. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the next issue already. He sent me the first three. He sent me the first three in PDF, but for some reason the link didn't work, and I told him it's fine. Like I'd rather read it in print anyway. But now I kind of wish I kind of want to message him, but dude, could you send me the next couple because I want to read them. You know, I don't really want to read now, and I hate reading, but I really dug the book, and that's how much I like it. That I don't know that I want to wait. I'll buy it still, but I still want to read it. You know.
If you enjoy the noir genre, you're really gonna enjoy this.
Yeah.
Like this shit resonates for me, and I love it.
Yep. I know. I mean, I'm going to recommend it to anybody that reads Brubaker for sure. So, go check out these books. All of them were great reads this week.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a small week, but these were definitely some standouts. So, you want to talk about next week?
Yeah.
I know you want to talk about X-Corp, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, X-Corp.
Yeah, so we'll do that, I'm assuming. Future State Gotham.
Yeah.
I flipped through it.
Why is it called Future State Gotham? Is it like...
It is a Future State book. It's an ongoing set in that world. It's the black and white book Joshua Williamson, Dennis Culver, and Giannis Milianis, or Milo Giannis, however you say his name. It's going to be set in that world. I flipped through it because we got our DC books yesterday, and oh man, it looks pretty dope. It's pretty cool that it's in black and white too, because you don't see that really from the main on an ongoing book.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then I don't know. I couldn't really decide on anything else. I know there's an image book, Time Before Time, by Declan Shalvey, that's coming out. It's been kind of getting some good reviews, but I don't know.
I really don't see anything else.
Oh, you got the Bride of Doom in Fantastic Four.
It's supposed to be him and Victorious for life. Okay, who's gonna be Ryan?
It's Victorious.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh,
I already said it. Yeah.
I'm fucking reading it. Victorious forever.
Do you want to read that for next week or no? We don't have to.
Yeah, let's read it.
Fantastic 432, X-Corp number 1, Future State Gotham number 1, Time Before Time number 1, and then we'll touch on Heroes Reborn.
Yeah. Which is the Heroes Reborn issue?
2.
2?
Number 2. Yeah, issue 2.
Okay.
It's coming out every week now, so.
Okay. We're not doing the tie-ins, right? Like Peter Parker, the Amazing
Shutterbug?
No.
We're not. No. I'm cool on that. No Shutterbug for me. So, all right. Well, that's all I got. So
that's all I got. I'm good.
All right, cool. Well, if you're not already following us, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. You can follow Dylan at The Dillbot on Instagram. Make sure you hit that like button, follow us, subscribe, bell icon, all that stuff. And on that note, we're out.
Later, buds.